Have you ever stopped to think about those kind of invisible engines that keep our world running? You know, the industries working quietly in the background, powering everything from, say, your coffee machine to giant factories, but they hardly ever make the news. Well, today we're doing a deep dive into one of those really foundational, often overlooked markets, the global solenoid valve market. Our mission here is pretty clear. We want to unpack its, well, impressive growth and look at the key regional trends shaping its future. And we're basing this on some really solid research from cognitive market research. So yeah, if you want a quick way to get up to speed on a vital, maybe less flashy global industry, stick around. Now, just quickly for anyone less familiar, what exactly is a solenoid valve? Essentially, it's an electromechanical device. It controls the flow of liquids or gases. Think of it like a tiny automated gatekeeper. Or maybe a smart tap. You find them in countless systems, washing machines, complex factory robots, even sophisticated medical gear.
Yeah, exactly. And without them, lots of critical processes just wouldn't work. They really are the unsung heroes of precision control. And it's because they're so fundamental that their growth story is so, well, interesting. It's steady, it's consistent. If we look at the big picture, the global market pulled in sales revenue of roughly $3.9 billion back in 2021.
3.9 billion. Okay.
Right. And this isn't some fluke. It's a market with real upward momentum. By 2025, the projection is it'll grow to over $4.6 billion.
Over 4.6 billion.
And looking further out to 2033, it's expected to hit, get this, almost $6.4 billion, right, $6.37 billion precisely,
Wow.
which works out to an overall compound annual growth rate, or CAGR,
Yeah.
of about 4.1%, a bit over, 4.128% technically over that whole period.
Okay, 4.1% CAGR globally. That's pretty significant, consistent growth for, like you said, such a core technology. And it's driven by what exactly? You mentioned tech advances.
That's a big part of it, yeah. Continuous technological improvements make these valves smarter, smaller, more efficient, more versatile. And alongside that, there's just growing demand across key sectors. Think manufacturing, automation, industrial control. They all need more of these.
Right, right. Okay, let's unpack this then. How does this global picture break down when we look at different regions? Where should we start?
Absolutely. Let's kick things off with North America, a major industrial player, obviously. So in 2021, North America accounted for about $1.2 billion of that global market.
Okay, 1.2 billion.
And it's set for steady growth. The projection is over $1.8 billion by 2033. That represents an average annual growth rate of around 3.6%, 3.575% to be exact.
And within North America, I assume the U.S. is the biggest chunk.
Oh, definitely. The United States holds the dominant share. Makes sense, given its huge industrial base and all the investment in automation. Its market was worth nearly $974 million in 2021.
Almost a billion just in the U.S.
Yeah. And it's forecast to go past $1.4 billion, $1.46 billion by 2033. That's keeping a solid growth rate of about 3.5% annually.
Okay. What about Canada and Mexico?
Canada also shows really robust growth. It's projected to go from about $126 million in 2021 to over $208 million by 2033. That's a strong CAGR of 4.3%, likely driven by its resources and manufacturing sectors.
4.3, interesting. Higher than the U.S. rate.
It is, yeah. And Mexico's doing well, too. Healthy growth there, from around $101 million in 2021 up to over $156 million by 2033. That's an annual growth rate of about 3.7%, fueled a lot by automotive and electronics manufacturing expanding there. Okay, so let's up across the Atlantic to Europe. Right. Europe's solenoid valve market was valued around $839 million back in 2021. It's projected to reach almost $1.3 billion at $1.287 billion by 2033.
And the growth rate there?
That reflects about a 3.7% average annual growth,
Yeah.
3.686%. Pretty steady. And no surprise here, Germany has really led the pack in Europe, with its strong engineering and automotive sectors.
Makes sense.
Yeah, its market is forecast to grow from just over $160 million in 2021 to over $265 million by 2033. That's an impressive annual growth rate for a mature market, about 4.4%, 4.399% actually.
So Germany's a key driver. What about other major European economies? The UK, France, Italy?
Yep. The UK follows Germany with strong growth, too, projected to increase from about $131 million in 2021 to over $208 million by 2033. That's growing at nearly 4% annually, 3.986%, probably boosted by its process industries.
Okay.
France is also on a solid upward trend. moving from around $107 million in 2021 to over $154 million by 2033. That's about 3.1% annually, with automation being a big factor.
And Italy.
Italy's market should hit nearly $120 million by 2033, up from roughly $81 million in 2021. That's about 3.3% growth per year, often linked to specialized machinery manufacturing. And then you've got other notable countries contributing too. Spain is showing growth near 4%, Sweden around 3.9%, Denmark about 3.4%. Even Switzerland and Luxembourg show steady, albeit slightly slower, growth around 3%.
So, broadly speaking, consistent expansion across the board in Europe, a sign of ongoing industrial modernization, I guess.
Exactly. It underlines the continued investment.
Okay. Now, here's where it gets really interesting from what I understand. The Asia-Pacific region, or APAC, this area seems to be showing the strongest growth globally in solenoid valves. What's going on there? What's driving that acceleration?
That's absolutely right. APAC is, well, it's the powerhouse for growth in this market. The region posted revenue of nearly $1.4 billion back in 2021, almost $1.397 billion.
Already bigger than North America or Europe then?
Correct. And it's projected to soar past $2.4 billion by 2033. That's $2.441 billion, which works out to an impressive average annual growth rate of about 4.8%. 4.774% to be precise, clearly the highest regional CAGR.
And China must be a huge part of that story.
Definitely. China is leading this surge. It's moving from roughly $427 million in 2021 to over $762 million projected by 2033. That's an annual growth rate close to 5%, 4.965%, driven largely by its massive manufacturing base and the rapid adoption of smart factory tech.
Okay, China's huge. But then there's India. The numbers I saw suggest its growth is, well, really remarkable. What's fueling that specifically? It seems to stand out even within APAC.
India is absolutely a standout case, you're right. It's showing the highest individual country growth rate anywhere in the world. It's surging from just under $200 million, $199.7 million in 2021, to a projected $383 million plus by 2033.
Wow.
That reflects a CAGR of 5.6%. Almost 5.595%.
5.6%.
Yeah. And this isn't just a number, right? It really points to the nation's accelerating industrialization, huge infrastructure projects, and a really strong push towards automation across sectors like automotive, pharmaceuticals, food processing.
So a combination of factors really pushing demand.
Exactly. All of which need these kinds of fundamental control components. And beyond China and India, you got other major players. Japan's still very significant, going from about $230 million in 2021 to over $374 million by 2033. That's a solid 4.1% annually, driven by its high-tech manufacturing. South Korea is also set to reach over $187 million by 2033, up from around $116 million in 2021. Again, about 4.1% annual growth, pushed by semiconductors and electronics.
Similar rate to Japan, then.
Very similar, yes. And Singapore also shows really strong growth, actually. It's smaller, starting around $41 million, but projected to hit over $75 million by 2033. That's a 5.2%, CAGR 5.162%, reflecting its role as a hub for advanced manufacturing.
Higher than China's rate, even. Interesting.
It is. And Southeast Asia as a whole block is also expanding rapidly, going from about $100 million in 2021 to over $187 million by 2033. That's a collective CAGR of 5.4%, 5.37%, driven by investment in developing industrial bases.
So really, across the board, APAC is booming.
It really is. And you also have steady contributions from places like Australia and Taiwan, further cementing APAC's position as the main global growth engine for this market. Okay, so to kind of round out our global tour, let's quickly look at South America, the Middle East, and Africa. Each region has its own story. South America, for instance, had a market value around $227 million in 2021. It's projected to reach over $383 million by 2033.
Okay, and the growth rate?
That's expanding at about 4.4% annually, 4.439%. Pretty healthy.
It's fascinating seeing these trends across such different economies. What are the highlights in South America, the Middle East, and Africa?
Well, in South America, Brazil naturally leads due to its size, with a growth rate of about 4.3% annually. But interestingly, Argentina is showing an even higher growth rate, almost 5%, 4.969%. Could be tied to specific sectors like agriculture or maybe industrial projects.
Nearly 5% for Argentina. Interesting.
Yeah. And you also see consistent growth in places like Colombia, Peru, and Chile. Chile, for example, is showing a CAGR of about 4.6%. Moving over to the Middle East, this region is projected to hit over $262 million by 2033, up from about $157 million in 2021. that reflect a CAGR of 4.4%, 4.358%.
And the key players there, Saudi Arabia, UAE.
Exactly. Saudi Arabia is leading with a growth rate around 4.4% annually, driven by big infrastructure projects and efforts to diversify their economy. The UAE actually stands out with one of the highest KGRs in the region, over 5%, 5.024%, likely linked to rapid development, smart city initiatives, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Turkey also shows strong growth, around 4.7% annually.
Yeah.
And you have contributions from Egypt and Qatar, too, mostly tied to ongoing industrialization and investment. And finally, Africa. The market there is growing from about $102 million in 2021 to a projected $170 million, $169.6 million by 2033. The overall CAGR is about 3.6%,
A
3.583%.
bit slower than other regions, but still growing.
Still steady growth, yes. Countries like Nigeria and South Africa are posting healthy figures. South Africa specifically is climbing at about 4.1% annually, driven by its mining and manufacturing sectors.
So what's fascinating here, I think, is how all these different regional stories, these diverse growth rates, they collectively paint this picture of a really foundational technology just steadily expanding everywhere.
That's a great way to put it. It shows how deeply tied these components are to global industrial progress everywhere.
It really does underscore that interconnectedness. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of numbers, a lot of regions. Let's bring it back. So what does this all mean? What's the key takeaway for listeners?
Well, I think the main takeaway is you now have a pretty solid grasp of a significant global market that really does underpin a lot of our modern industrial world. This deep dive hopefully showed that consistent global expansion. It's gradual, yes, but it's sustained growth for solenoid valves.
Yeah.
And it's consistently driven by those two main things we talked about. One, the technology getting better, smaller, smarter, more integrated valves.
Right.
And two, just increasing demand from those critical sectors like manufacturing, automation, industrial control. It's a clear sign of ongoing industrialization and modernization happening all over the world, making everything from, our cars to our water treatment plants more automated and precise.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. When you consider how deeply intertwined these seemingly niche technologies like solenoid valves are with huge global industries, manufacturing, automation, think about how their continued quiet growth might actually be signaling the next big shifts, shifts in industrialization and tech adoption around the world. What other foundational technologies, maybe just as unnoticed, could be experiencing similar unheralded growth? Growth that's quietly powering, well, everything. It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? Something to consider.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting to something maybe a bit hidden, but really crucial. The global solenoid valve market.
That's right.
These aren't, flashy components, but they are basically the quiet architects running things behind the scenes in, well, almost everything.
Yeah, exactly. Simply put, they're valves controlled by electricity, right? They manage how liquids or gases flow, and they're just fundamental in so many systems we use daily, often without even thinking about it.
Right. And our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is really to unpack what makes this market tick. We want to look at the drivers, sure, but also the challenges and definitely what's coming next. We've dug into a great report from Cognitive Market Research, Global Solenoid Valve Market Dynamics and Future Trends to pull out the key stuff for you.
It's a really dynamic area.
So, okay, let's jump in. Where are these valves making the biggest difference? Like, what's really pushing the demand?
Well, it's fascinating, actually, how their growth mirrors these bigger shifts in industry and society. Probably the most significant driver is the huge expansion in industrial automation.
Okay, automation. That makes sense.
Yeah, you see all these automated systems in manufacturing, processing, and solenoid valves are key. They're fast, reliable, and they integrate really smoothly with controllers. Think food processing, chemicals, pharma, places where you need really precise control over flows. It's about efficiency, but also safety.
Right.
Critically important.
So they're kind of the hidden workhorses of that automation revolution.
Yeah.
What else is really driving the market? Is there something maybe less obvious?
Definitely. Another really big factor is the focus on water and wastewater management. It's global.
Ah, okay. Infrastructure.
Exactly. We're seeing massive investment in upgrading water treatment plants, distribution networks, and solenoid valves are indispensable there. They control flow, infiltration, sewage treatment, getting clean water out. Governments, cities, they're all pushing for these automated solutions to boost hygiene, cut down on waste, prevent leaks.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge for public health, for sustainability. What about closer to home, like our everyday comfort.
Oh, absolutely. Don't forget HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, huge demand there.
Right.
Solenoid valves are essential in those systems. They regulate the refrigerants, the airflow very precisely. And with more cities growing, more construction happening worldwide, well, the need for efficient HVAC just keeps rising, and so does the need for these valves.
Okay, so they're pretty much everywhere doing critical jobs. But it can't all be smooth sailing, can it?
Yeah.
What are the hiccups, the challenges these components face out in the real world?
That's a really important point because, yeah, there are definitely hurdles. One of the biggest issues, honestly, is how sensitive they are to contamination and corrosion.
Ah, so dirt, grime, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially in tough industrial settings. These are precision devices, right? So particles, poor maintenance, it can cause blockages, lead to breakdowns. And that means downtime, which is expensive, plus higher maintenance costs. It can even, damage trust in the technology.
Yeah. So that precision is also a weakness in some ways.
Yeah.
Does that limit where they can actually be used effectively? Are there like no-go zones?
Well, yeah, in a sense. Another limitation is performance under really high pressure.
Oh.
Your standard solenoid valve might just not cut it under extreme pressure or with really aggressive fluids. Think oil and gas or deep mining.
Right, tough conditions.
Very tough. So you need specialized, often much more expensive versions for those jobs, which limits their standard use in those big industries, or at least bumps up the costs significantly.
And what about how they operate? Do they use a lot of power or generate heat? Is that an issue?
It certainly can be, yeah. Energy use and heat, that's something engineers are always grappling with. Valves that need to be constantly switching on and off, they do draw a fair bit of power,
Huh.
and they generate heat,
Okay.
which isn't great for the system's overall energy efficiency. And it definitely pushes people to look at alternatives, maybe hybrid valves, especially for applications where the valve is working for really long periods.
Right. Makes sense. So with these challenges in mind, what's the future look like? How is the industry innovating to get around these problems and meet, new demands?
This is where it gets really exciting, I think. Technology is providing some direct answers. One of the biggest shifts is integrating these valves with smart sensors and the Internet of Things, IoT.
Ah, the connected valve.
Exactly. Imagine valves talking back, sending data in real time. It allows for remote monitoring, diagnosing problems before they happen, predictive maintenance.
That sounds like a game changer.
It really is. It's core to this whole Industry 4.0 idea. Better efficiency, less unexpected downtime, and you get all this incredibly valuable data about your system.
Predictive maintenance, data. That must help tackle those contamination or pressure issues too, right? Being able to monitor them so closely.
Absolutely. It gives you much better visibility. And speaking of specific needs, what about really small applications, like tiny devices?
Yeah, is there a trend there?
Huge trend, miniaturization. We're seeing much smaller, more compact solenoid valves being developed. These are crucial for things like medical devices, diagnostic machines, portable ventilators, and also in analytical instruments, microfluidics.
Microfluidics, wow.
Yeah, handling tiny amounts of fluid very precisely. So in any device where space is tight but you still need that pinpoint control, these mini valves are becoming essential.
Makes perfect sense for portable tech medical gear.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned sustainability earlier as a driver. How are the valves themselves getting greener?
That's definitely a major focus. The market is really pushing towards eco-friendly, energy-efficient designs.
How so?
Well, manufacturers are putting serious R&D into low-power valves. Also, things like magnetic latching valves.
Latching, what does that mean?
It means they only need power to switch state, open or close, but not to stay in that state. So much lower energy consumption overall.
Ah,
Yeah, and it aligns perfectly with global environmental goals. These energy-saving innovations are really important for green buildings, water conservation projects, anywhere sustainability is key.
so looking back at everything we've discussed, it's clear the solenoid valve market is this really interesting mix of technology, sustainability needs, and just fundamental industrial upgrades.
Absolutely.
It really shows how these seemingly small parts are actually central to these huge global shifts we're seeing, quietly making it all work.
And while the challenges are definitely real, the contamination, the energy use, the potential for innovation and growth is just massive. It's a field that's constantly adapting, constantly finding solutions for a world that wants more automation, more connection, and crucially, more sustainability.
So for you listening, maybe next time you adjust the thermostat or grab a drink from a vending machine or even just turn on the tap, Think about those little valves, these quiet architects working away unseen. Where else might you find their hidden influence, enabling all the systems we kind of take for granted every day? Definitely something to think about. All the insights and data we discussed today came from cognitive market research.